What's up, and welcome back to Opposites Attract Podcast. This is Sonja Ramirez, your girl, and I'm sitting next to
Miguel Ramirez.
What's up, everybody? How's your day?
How was your week?
How is your life?
Going.
It is an early morning. We are recording at, what, 8:40 in the morning?
Something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. We got some stuff going
some
on.
Coffee.
So, yeah, we've been very, very busy. So we got to make it happen when we can, right?
Yes. So last week we had, we talked about having a session for parenting tips, marriage tips.
Yeah.
And so it seemed like it worked out pretty well last week. So we're going to do it again this week.
We'll keep trying to do that. At least give a little, I mean, we'll still do what we do, but you know, talk shit.
A tip is always
fun.
good.
But yeah, last week we were talking about giving kids some space when they need it, right?
Yeah.
We had talked about how they can't get away sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? And how they'll push you away. And go ahead and turn that off. It's okay. How they'll push us away, and that can hurt a parent's feelings. You know, because I know I felt that. And we've been listening to this book, Untangled, and one thing that they were talking about was I think it's kind of like a natural feeling where when you're getting pushed away, you kind of separate, you know, because it's kind of like to protect yourself. But when it comes to your kids and when they're going through these changes and they don't know what the hell's going on, and they start pushing you away because they're trying to figure themselves out, and you're like, well, you know what? Whatever then. And you push them back.
I think that's different for men and for women.
Is it?
Because I noticed that.
Or is it
that's
for different
how
personalities?
You handle, could be. Yeah, it could be different. I don't know. But I know that I seen that happen with you.
Yeah.
When Audrey was going through her thing. But for me, it was more, I was curious. I think, you know, it was hurtful, but I still wanted to figure it out.
Did you get the physical push away? Like with me, because I felt that. Like that happened. You know, I there like before I could hug Audrey and get as close and it doesn't matter.
Mm-mm.
But then at a certain point, it's like I would get a hug with her butt sticking out and her freaking elbows in so that I can't get close.
That's why I said it's different, because you're the dad, right? You're different than her. You have different body parts. When it comes to her, she's more comfortable. She can just hug you. So she was more comfortable with me. So I didn't get that pull away.
Gotcha.
But what I did get was, because her and I would talk about everything. You know that. We would talk all the time. And all of a sudden, I noticed that she started to get a little, she wanted space, it seemed. But I wasn't used to giving her space because she always wanted to be around me and on me, right?
It's very, even still though, even now when they're going through it, it's fucking weird.
And we're talking about preteens and teens.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, our daughter's 12. And so she's puberty. Going through her changes, the preteens, puberty, all of that. But it's weird because sometimes, like at this point, she wants space. And then a couple minutes later, she will not leave you alone.
Right. See, and I think that we're getting over that hump.
Which is great. I mean, I don't, now that I know, it's like, all right, well, it's just different phases. And when she wants to be around, then we'll take advantage of that.
And most parents, though, are so busy that they don't recognize the signs. They don't see it. They don't understand it. And don't even know that, some people don't know that there are books and audios that you can listen to and read and learn how to connect with your teen, how to, last week, give them space. Because there's times where they do need that space and they start closing their door, and all of a sudden you're like, what are you doing? Why are you being so sneaky? What are you hiding? Yeah. Right? I remember that was the first thought that came to my head. When they start closing the door, And, in the book Untangled that we're listening to, she says that all it is they're doing the same thing most of the time. Yeah. Okay. They're doing the same thing, just with their door closed. And she shares a story about this father who noticed that his daughter started to close the door, and he took it he was like, okay,
Yeah.
what's up? What's going on?
There's something in there.
Yes. And the first chance he got, he started going through her drawers. He started going through her room and found this little box that had a lock.
Yeah.
And he ended up prying it open, and all it was her diary. And then the diary, it was just things that she was going through.
Yeah, there wasn't anything bad in it.
Right. If
But he had violated his daughter's privacy.
Right. And so it's like we need to hold back and really just step back and pay closer attention to what the kids are going through, because sometimes they could be getting into stuff.
So how do you feel about the diary?
Because
I was reading, I was listening to that book, and she lets you read parts of her diary and stuff like that. I was listening to that book, and I could see parents going through their kids' stuff and looking for the diary and finding the diary and reading the diary and seeing what's up, and oh my God, they're doing this, they're doing this. But when I was listening to it, and like I know her, I don't want to do that. It's like it is a violation of privacy.
It's a journal. It's a journal of things that happen to her. It's personal, because some of the stuff she may be embarrassed about. Maybe she was being made fun of at school or whatever it may be. Maybe it's how she's feeling while she's going through that time of the month. And that stuff to her is very personal.
Things that you're very emotional about, things that you think about that you don't tell anybody else.
Yes.
For somebody to go through and read that.
And I think that it's I think it's very important for the kids to journal.
When I was listening to that in that book, like I kind of got the feeling like, it's kind of hard to say, because if things got out of hand and we were having like serious problems,
right?
I don't know, then maybe we do have to. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, and that's the thing that you.
But like I when I was listening to it, I just kind of had the feeling like I don't ever want to have to do that.
Right.
Like I don't want to invade her privacy like that.
Yes. It's kind of like,
just as a decent person.
Right. And it's kind of like when you're in a relationship, right? Like all this comes together when you start to understand
it's like snooping through people's shit when you're at their house.
And the kids are just little adults, and it's like almost having that insecurity with your significant other, going through their phones.
Yeah.
And just that trust, the trust has to be there. And as long as she hasn't given us a reason to distrust her.
Yeah.
We need to give her the space that she needs.
We've said this before. Treat her as she is.
Right. And
not like everybody else.
And to recognize, signs, just being aware, being present, and taking time away from your work, parents, or, your business, whatever it may be, and just having time to talk to the kids. And they talk about the importance of having dinner, with your kids. And there's times where I'm running late, right?
I'm going to look that up for one of our future podcasts. I'm going to look up some studies and some things about having dinner as a family.
Well, she talks about it.
She does, but I want to get some more like actual
research
data about families that eat together.
Yeah, because she talked about that, and the conversations that we have and how that really helps us as a family.
Yep. So one of the things that when this kind of stuff is happening, like I said, you start feeling resentment, and then sometimes you might get angry. Some people get angry when like they just don't understand what's going on. But we also wanted to talk about, getting angry at the kids,
right?
And
yelling,
and how you handle that, and yelling. And also, when I was listening to that book, I was thinking about all these things that people go through as a parent, and like some of this shit is hard. Like, it's not easy to fucking deal with this stuff.
No.
When you're getting pushed away, when the kids are having trouble in school, when like it's just a bunch of different shit.
When they're mouthing off.
When they're mouthing off. When
you
have
a stressful
lying.
day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many emotions involved.
Like they were both, they had like a little role there where they're lying about stuff. I mean, it's just different shit, and it's stressful. Now, listening to the book, the most important time to be a parent, the time when it counts, when it matters, is when this shit's happening. When the important stuff's happening, when you have a crisis going on in the family.
Right.
That is the time to be a parent. Not when it's fucking easy. When you guys are going to the movies or going to fucking play games or some shit. Or you're going to Dave and Buster's.
Right.
That's
when
not,
they're younger.
that's the easy shit. That's the shit that any parent can do.
Yes.
The time to be a real parent is when there's problems.
Right. When they start to get older, when they start to go through things, when they start to not understand what's going on with their body and why their emotions are just like taking over themselves, and why, that it's leaving childhood. It's getting out of that adolescent stage and trying to understand what's next for them.
It's like I had told you about this analogy from this boxing coach, Teddy Atlas, and he was one of Mike Tyson's boxing coaches. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but just as an analogy, he was saying that, everybody knows Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson, whenever he would get in the ring with somebody, he was a destroyer. He would, the first round, you expected him to knock people out within the first round. But he was saying that he wasn't the greatest boxer ever, because when he would get tested, he would fold. When he would win, he would dominate. Like it wasn't even it wasn't a challenge. But whenever he got pushed, when he hit somebody and they hit him back, and they when they hurt him and they
rocked him, like when he's rocked,
he didn't do it. And that's kind of like what I was saying with parenting. Like the easy shit's easy.
Right.
Everybody does that.
Yeah.
The time to be a parent's when it's hard.
And so there's these, it talks about 7 steps. Last week we talked about the first step, giving them space. The second step, and to raising healthy teens, is yelling. And when you think about it, when they think about us, like when the kids walk through the door, when they just got off of school.
Yeah.
I may be running in the house from an appointment. You are probably still working. And if you're not working your job, you're working on the podcast, it's just chaotic. It's one thing after the other, and not depending on how your day is going is how you're feeling. And now you're in your emotions. I'm in my emotions. We have no idea what the kids have gone through when they walk through that door. They could have had a shitty day. They could have been picked on, poked at, or whatever it may be. And we don't know what type of day they had. And in order for them to walk in the door and be like, hey, Joey, put your stuff down and get to work.
It's like you're just combining all the emotions all at once at the same time.
Right. And I think that, with us, a lot of us are in our emotions, that the first thing that happens when the kids speak out, right? Like, Mom, can I grab a snack? No, get to your work kind of deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then their emotions pop off, and then our emotions pop off, and all of a sudden there's a yelling battle, and then you have the other kid upstairs listening to this who gone through some stuff and comes down and starts acting a mess as well. It's like you have to slow down and take time to chill before you respond, before you react, because you don't know what's going on in their head. And a lot of times it's over exaggerated. Like it could be something little, right? Maybe she tripped over herself, which threw her entire day off.
Maybe she got embarrassed at school for some reason.
And she's hurting inside, right? Like she's hurting inside. She's upset.
Yeah.
And here I go. I walk into her room and I'm like, Audrey, what? I can't even see your floor. What's up?
I thought I told you to clean this up yesterday.
Right. And then I leave, and then you go up and you're like, hey, aren't you supposed to be doing your homework? Well, Mom just told me to. Do you see where this could, and that's happened. It's happened.
Do you know what's happened too? Like where you don't realize, but if she's having an emotional day.
Yeah.
And not being aware, and you go up there and you tell her, hey, what happened to the room? You need to clean it up. And then you leave, and then now she's even more upset because nobody cares. And
yes.
And then I heard you go upstairs and tell her that she needed to clean her room, and I see that she's still not cleaning her room.
Yeah.
Hey, haven't you heard? Didn't you hear your mom?
Yep.
And it's just, you're compounding and making it.
Right.
I mean, sometimes, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, you also have to cut the shit and clean the room.
Right.
You know, but there are times when
you have to be more mindful. And that's just like with us, same thing, you know?
I was thinking about the, like last week we were talking about, like I was talking about tickling her, and, you know, when she just at a certain point didn't want me to tickle her anymore. And I was saying like tickle time might be over. And one thing that they were saying in the book, and I was just kind of thinking like something else, what I did, I stopped, right? And I told her, I was like, is it okay if I give you a hug instead? And she like shook her head like, yeah, and smiled, you know? So I just gave her a big hug and I kissed her on the forehead. But in the past, I've had, when I didn't realize, when I wasn't thinking about it, it hurt my feelings.
Right. Yes.
And then sometimes you get angry, or you it's resentment. Like later on, it's like, hey, can we go do this? No.
Right.
No. Why? Why would we go do, like, after how you just treated me? Right.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just not understanding.
Right.
You know, so like just a tip for anybody that's going through something like that, just take a second, let her know how she, like, one thing that you can do is you can be like, I understand that, you know, things are changing. You know, do you feel a little bit uncomfortable with your body right now or whatever? And she'll probably just say, yeah, because that's not a weird thing. If you just kind of say, hey, is it a little weird right now? And she's like, yeah. Is it okay if I give you a hug? Okay.
Yeah.
Give her a kiss on the head, give her a hug. And that's perfect for right then. That's it. And it shows you that even though that you're okay with how she feels, you know?
Yeah. And
then she'll be more comfortable around you.
Right.
Because forcing her or pushing her away is only going to make it more uncomfortable.
Right. So before you decide to yell at your kids, take a step back and collect yourself, first of all. You know, it's almost like you have to prepare yourself. Like we do this. Hey, the kids are about to get home. You know, they're about to walk through that door. Like just gather yourself, gather your thoughts. And make sure your anger doesn't travel. Like if you're not having, because anger does travel. If you're having a shitty day at school and you know the kids are coming home, you know, it's like you let that go. Give yourself time. Do what you got to do to let that go so that it doesn't travel onto the kids.
I'll bring up something that you guys can look up that can help with something like this. There's if you guys YouTube Jocko Willink normal face, he's got something that he calls normal face. And I think it has to do with detaching. He always talks about detaching from your emotions. He's a Navy SEAL and in combat and in a lot of different things. But, you know, a lot of times people, like, they look at combat like it's an extreme. Like that's the extreme of everything is combat, right?
Right.
But everything relates to other things. And he was saying like normal face is part of detaching. When something bad is happening, when people are getting emotional, when stuff is going down, you maintain the normal face. You keep calm. So when your daughter is pushing you away, when the kids are flipping out, when they're getting home from school and it's a disaster, you kind of detach and look at what's happening and you maintain that normal face. Now, sometimes you can't always do that because if you're trying to tell your wife that you love her, or, you know, you don't keep normal face in the bedroom, I don't think, right?
No, I make all kinds of faces.
Yeah. But it's good when it's for stuff like that.
Right.
Like for some of these situations where you're getting pushed away, when you're getting angry.
Right.
You know,
well, let's talk a little bit about what if they're angry, they come home and they start lashing out. You know, Adriana comes home and you tell her to clean her room and she's like, I don't have to, or she just lashes out.
Yeah, that's how when you flick them in the forehead.
How would you respond to that?
That's the reset button.
How would you respond to that?
If she's angry and
yeah, like she lashes out, she yells at you. She's in her emotions, she yells at you. Think about what you've read in the book. Because we've been talking about how we can stop ourselves from overreacting.
Yeah.
When we coming at them, but what about if they're coming at us?
Well, first, I don't know if, you know, and it's tough because she's not in front of me and she's not giving me the attitude right now. You know, I'm trying to think of like what I would do. And right now it's easy because my emotions really aren't involved. I'm detached. It's not happening. It's hypothetical.
And that's the key.
So like right now,
what you just said.
Right now, what I'm thinking is, well, I would talk to her and, you know, I would say like, hey, where is this coming from?
Exactly.
And if you don't want to talk about it, well, I don't know if there's things that we have to get done. Those things are going to have to get done no matter what.
Right.
If you need to go to your room and get yourself together for a little bit, but within, I don't know how much time we have before we have to leave or whatever's going on, that's not going to change. So if you want to talk to me about it, great. We can try and work it out and get busy on what we need to do. Or if you need some space and you need to figure it out, then go do that.
Yes.
But regardless, what we need to get done is going to get done.
And that is so good. And that's perfect. And
especially if it's not, if I can tell that it wasn't something big, something serious. Maybe she's just, like you said, in her feelings.
Yeah. Like, you know, when your kid is off, like I can tell when she is off. The other day I went into her room and I'm like, Adriana, dude, like we just went shopping. You know, this room is a disaster. I also need you to vacuum as well. And she was like, okay, Mom.
Yeah.
Like, and she vacuumed yesterday. She even did her bathroom. But the very first time at the beginning of the week, when I did that, she was in her feelings. She was not feeling it. And I could tell something was wrong. She felt overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I sat with her and I said, hey, I can tell something's wrong. I'm like, do you need some time alone?
Yeah.
Or do you need a hug?
Ah.
And I sat next to her and she just brought me in and hugged me and laid me down. And we laid there together in silence. And then she opened up to me. And then she shared with me what was going on. And I told her, I get it. I understand. You don't have to vacuum today. You can take care of that tomorrow. No big deal. You know, just tidy up your room a bit. She's like, okay, Mom.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing. It's like, sometimes they just need a break. They need a break. And yes,
well,
the floors need to be vacuumed
in that moment.
Yes. And I think that's what it is, and I felt so good because I've been able to control myself because you know how I am with the house.
Yeah.
You know, so I've been able to just control my thoughts and my emotions.
You've always been very tidy with the house, keeping things in order and in a certain place. And you want your house to look like a model home.
But I can't.
Or you've wanted to.
Yes.
But with the kids, you can't.
I can't.
Yeah.
But, you know, and that there, it's just slowing down, parents, connecting, being aware, and checking your emotions. Checking your emotions.
Something else that I just thought about was, like you were talking about, getting her to vacuum and clean up her room. And then, you know, the kids have different chores. And I'm sure you guys, I don't know if, I think there's a lot of, I don't know if everybody gives their kids chores still. I mean, I think most people do. If you don't, you should. You know, because some
teaches them responsibility.
Some people do everything for their kid. Like, I mean,
she talks about that in the book.
At a certain age, like our daughter, she's 12, and we're not washing her clothes.
No. She
has to wash her clothes. She folds her clothes. Mm-hmm. She does the dishes. She vacuums upstairs. And she cleans her bathroom.
She does the dishes.
There's certain things that she has to do. And Joey, he helps with, you know, some of the office stuff, shredding papers. He cleans the counters and cleans the tables up.
Yeah, takes out the trash.
He takes out the trashes. He's got his own stuff. And
the dog poop.
As he gets older, he's also getting more things. Audrey's getting more things. And it is helping. It's helping us out. And they're getting better at it.
Yes.
But I think when it comes to chores in the beginning, it's a fucking, it is so hard, man.
Ugh. It's like, let's just do it ourselves.
So many times. It literally takes years. It literally fucking takes years when you're trying to get a kid to wash dishes.
Oh my gosh.
But it's not even just like the fact that we want help so that it'll free us up to do other things that we need to do.
Because normally we'll clean the kitchen as a family.
It's not only that, but it's responsibility for them. It's teaching them responsibility that, hey, we buy the food, we prepare the food, we'll put the food out. You guys clean up the table. You guys do the dishes. You guys set the table. Like, that.
It's teamwork. We are a team.
But after years of, and this is what I'm saying. This is the hard part of parenting. It's easy to just fucking stop and just, you know what? And we've done it. Yeah. There's been times when they're washing dishes and at a certain point it's like, all right.
It's being consistent.
I'll finish it up. I'll finish it up. You've done enough. But that's when they're little.
Yeah.
And then little by little, they get better. And, sometimes it's like, hey, put this back in the sink, do it again. Mm-hmm. And you'll learn.
Yeah. She's been doing so good.
And
I'm so proud of her.
Finally. Yeah. Like they're a huge help.
They got it.
They're a huge help. Yeah. Like after dinner, we do and it's like a routine now.
Yes.
But it also helps teach them responsibility. Mm-hmm. But it's part of that sticking to it and you just got to they're going to give you shit. They're going to give you shit. They still give us shit. But guess what? They give you less shit as you go along.
Yes. Yes, that's great. Yep. So that's our tip for the day for parenting. Parents step back. The yelling, just being more considerate.
Yeah.
Being aware, being present, taking time, and know your kids. Yeah. Because if you're connected to your kids, you're going to know when they are off track, when they're in their emotions, and it will help you to help them.
Yep. So the other day, I don't know if I was sitting at the dinner table. I think I was sitting with, it was with Joey. I can't remember who was around or what we were talking about, but it was something. And I was comparing something that was happening to something that used to happen back in the day. And I was telling Joey, and I just started out with, you know what, Joe? Back in the day, and before I could even fucking finish, he was like, let me guess, you had a hard life.
Dude, that's hilarious. He is so cute.
I could not even finish my fucking thought. I just busted out laughing. Oh my God. He is
so cute.
At that moment, like I was thinking of myself like as a fucking caveman and all that
That's
shit.
That's hilarious. Because you don't realize like how old you are. You know what I'm saying? Like I still feel young. I don't feel like I look old. Like I still feel young, you know? And it's like some of the shit that the kids tell you, it just trips me out. They make me feel ancient, when Audrey's like, Mom, how old are you going to be? And I'm like 44. And I'm like, no, wait, I'm going to be 45. She's like, wow. I'm like, wow, what? No.
That was like last night. We were cooking and we're listening to music, right?
Oh,
so Sonia puts on the radio or the music on Alexa.
2000
right?
R&B.
Oh, shit, I shouldn't have said that. I probably set off a bunch of people's shit. But so she puts on the music and I walk in and I'm seeing what's going on and starting to help out with some shit. And this song comes on and it's that song. Ooh, say what, say what, say what.
Yes.
Something, I like it, baby.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it's like an old song. And I'm like, and I'm getting into it and I'm hearing the person, like they're singing, they're rapping. I'm like, this is a good fucking song, man. I'm like, this song was the shit back in the day. And I was like, damn, this was the jam. And then I'm thinking, I'm like, we're old as fuck. I was like, this song is so old. And then I started looking it up and it was like from 20 something years ago.
And then you said, what did you say? This was a jam back in the day or something?
I'm like,
I'm like, what do you mean?
I was like, this is still the jam.
It still is.
Yeah. And that's when I was like, we're old as fuck.
So as you all can see, if you guys are watching,
fucking
hopefully
Usher.
you're watching. And if you're not watching, go to YouTube or even Facebook and watch the podcast.
And then we're like, music today sucks. And it's like, well, some music, because we were fucking like, we'll be jamming, but we're jamming to like the old shit, like Usher and fucking my name USHERRA. What, you remember all that shit? Yeah. That's our jams from back then.
So I come home the other day and I decided to go darker. Okay. And
hey, you need to fucking, some people are only listening. All right. So they didn't see you fucking grab your hair.
So
all they heard was I decided to go darker.
So obviously Miguel's not listening to the podcast while I'm speaking, because I was telling everyone that if they're listening, they need to go and watch and open it up on Facebook, because I was going to get in it, but you cut off my conversation.
Okay, her hair. She's talking about her hair.
Yeah. And I come home and I asked Joey. I didn't even ask Joey. He's like, Mom, he's like, your hair is really dark. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, do you like it? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, I think I like it blonde. And I'm like, why? And he's like, because you've always been blonde. He's like, my mom is like, it's always been blonde. Yeah. And I'm like, well, Joey, I'm still the same mommy. I'm like, my hair's just a different color. He's like, I know. I'm like, I still have a sweetheart. And he's like, yes, you do. He's like, but I like it blonde.
He's like, my mom has blonde.
And then hair. Audrey is, I tell Audrey, and Audrey's like, oh, I love it. Like, she loves it dark. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, Adriana, I'm like, why do you like my hair dark? And she's like, well, I like it blonde, but I like it dark because it's the same color as my hair.
Yeah.
So I'm like, then you think it looks better blonde? I'm like, I'm going back to blonde.
Yeah, because
she's like, no, Mom.
If she could get streaks, she'd like your freaking blonde streaks better. Then she'd be like, oh, yeah.
It's hilarious, but it's cute because kids will never lie to you. Parents, okay? If you want to know the truth, how you look, what you're wearing, ask your kids. They'll tell you straight up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
All right. So marriage.
Yeah. So there was something that I wanted to tell. Well, we had talked about last week. What was it?
You're not going to embarrass me, are you?
No. You were saying, well, we wanted to give out a marriage tip, right? And,
yes.
And I think there was something
do that
simple.
Every week.
Something real easy. Mm-hmm. That happened last week that I didn't even think about it.
So last week our tip was...
Yeah, go back and listen to it. We're not going to tell you now.
Okay,
so
never
go
mind.
back and listen to episode 140, what? 3? 2? I don't know. Listen to both of them just in case to be sure. Anyway. But no, we were talking about how you had caught me checking you out.
Oh, yes.
Or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was checking you out. But in that, I hadn't thought about it before. But in that moment, I'm like, yeah, I'm checking you out. Like, you're my wife. I'm like, fuck it. And if you turn around and look, who gives a shit? You're my wife. Like, that's good.
Yeah.
So just as a tip, like, fucking check your wife out and let her catch you. Let her catch you checking her out.
I catch you quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like, I'll tell you.
But
I tell them, hey, are you perving?
Yeah. Like, what's up, baby? But you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, like, just let them catch you. And it's so simple. Like, and then just be like, hey, what's up?
Or smack on the ass.
You look good. Yeah. You're looking hot. Something.
And like with
easy.
you, okay, you guys. So I don't know how many of you work from home, but if you work from home, you should be having surprise nooners when it works out.
Do you think, babe?
Because what?
You're giving out.
What?
Okay.
Do I not finish?
Yeah, go ahead. This has an asterisk. This is advice for other people. We may or may not practice this advice.
Right.
Right.
So, anyway.
And if we do, it's off business hours.
When the kids were younger, like, we could handle business, right? Like, younger, like when they were younger.
All right, yeah.
And now.
Don't let me forget to talk about our door.
And now, like, having, sex, it's freaking challenging.
Oh my God.
Because they're old enough. Audrey's 12 and Joey's 10. And it's like, you have to wait till they're completely knocked out. And by that time, we are tired.
I know.
Right? Like, we're just tired. And
before you could just throw them in a room, like put some snacks in there and just fucking go to town.
Right. Now it's more challenging. So, yesterday I had an early appointment and, my afternoon was a bit free. So I had something up my sleeve and.
Well, actually, yeah. I mean, usually when I'm working from home, I don't take a lunch break.
Right.
And so I was like, I'm fucking taking a break today.
I sent him a picture and I'm like, hey, are you taking a lunch today?
Yep. A couple minutes later, I'm walking upstairs. Yeah.
You know, and it was absolutely just amazing.
It was a good time.
You know, because, and I didn't think about it, but it was because we were free. Like there were no kids in the home.
Yes. There was nobody here.
No.
Dude, our fucking house. Look, there's a couple things for our next house that we're going to have.
Oh, yes.
There are a couple fucking things that you know how like this house, we're looking for, so we wanted the certain countertops that we liked, and we wanted certain things. The next house, guaranteed. We've been talking about the podcast studio. It's going to have a space to have a legit, nice podcast studio. Another thing I haven't told you about that I've been wanting to bring up is Sonja has this little hole that she goes and meditates and prays at. And
hole?
It's your fucking closet.
Oh, my walk-in closet. My closet.
It's not a big closet. It's a little closet, but it's also full of clothes. It's full of shoes. It's full of stuff.
Yes.
And like I can kind of see, like you have your little spot where you probably just get down, and you have like little things that you have on the wall that you read or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And
my verses
that's your
prayers.
that's like your spot.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
it's my war room. It's where I do a lot of my praying.
I'd like for you to have like an actual spot in another house. Like a place that's for you to just fucking do your thing.
I like my closet because it's dark.
Well, if it's a closet, maybe it's like a room inside your closet where you can, like a fucking trap door where you can light a candle and it's just that light.
So anyways, back to my story. You've been cutting me off a lot.
No, but that and I want different doors. Our fucking doors on our room. Look, we could be fucking going at it in the room. And when the kids are talking, it sounds like they're inside the fucking room with us.
Yes. And it messes with me mentally.
It is the worst. Yeah. So the next house, instead of having these bullshit ass paper, it's like those fucking doors from the Kung Fu movies.
It's the double doors.
It's the fucking rice paper doors that they have in fucking Asia. That's what it's like. Well, we need a fucking bank vault door. That's what we fucking
extra
need.
Insulation.
We need studio doors, like a fucking studio.
But listen, when you have older kids, you have to get creative. Come on, you guys. You got to get creative. So, I didn't have to be too creative. I just figured out, okay, well, I have an early morning appointment. You have a lunch hour. Like, I'm going to make this thing go. And I took a picture and I sent it to you. And I'm like, hey, are you taking a lunch? And that was it. You know, we were good to go. But it was so great because it was just us in that moment.
Yep.
And while, we were in that moment, like I was so just looking at you because I like to look at you, I'm getting all personal. Like I felt, like just the love, like the pure love that goes in. It's almost like, when they talk about, oh, you're going to lose your virginity and it's going to be perfect. And, this and that, and you're just going to feel all the love and all the emotion, how they play that in the movies, whatever. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And it's like after 13 years, like we were have that. You know what I'm saying? Like it still gets heated. Like we're still emotionally connected. And those are the things that we need to share, like with our listeners. Like, how did we get to that? And how do we keep that from going? And it's just knowing your partner, like knowing what motivates them, what makes them tick, and I know like where your spots are, and I know that there's certain things that you like that I'm in tune with, and vice versa. Like you can read my body language.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I'm like, hey baby, let's make love, or it's going down, it's getting crazy. Yeah. Or it's mixed. We have a little bit of both, right?
I need to get some whip sound effects for when we're getting crazy.
Yesterday, it was the both. It was all combined. But I was looking at you and this is weird, but I was just so, like, I'm thinking, like, after, when we were all good, and just thinking of how, like, proud I am to have you as my man.
I'm proud of you too, babe.
Because you've done...
There was a song that I made for you.
I know.
Dang. Yeah. Way back in the day.
Proud to be your man.
That was before we were even married.
Yeah, that was before we were married.
Holy
you got to put that up.
Shit.
Can you put that up?
I don't know if I can. I got to see. Because I jacked the beat from somebody.
Yeah. But, I was just, I'm just so proud of you. You know, the man that,
I love you,
that
babe.
you became,
I'm
and
proud of
just
you too.
your fight. Like
You
you
know
have
what?
that fight,
You know
and
what I
that
think?
drive for the family. It's not even more so for me. I feel
well. That's what I was
hey,
gonna
quiet.
say.
For me, I feel that your drive is us. Like that is where your drive stems from.
But I feel that from you too, and that's what I was about to say is that's where I think the bond, the closeness comes from, because we're for each other. We're down for what we're doing for the family.
Right.
Like we could fucking feel it, you know?
Right. And
This
that
is us.
pours into the parenting.
All of it.
You
It
know,
pours
it's
into
like,
everything.
yes.
I don't have a different feeling when it comes to our relationship, when it comes to parenting, when it comes to business,
That's
when it
true.
comes to podcasting, when it comes to, like, I have the same. It's not like even your even Trust Inc. Because like if it came down to Trust Inc., like, hey, we need to do something. Well, if that's whatever it is that we need to do, if it involves me, then then we're gonna do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if it's something that you can handle, that you're gonna take care of, then you do it. But even like if it came with podcasting, it's like, okay, we have something that we're gonna do that's a little bit different, and it's gonna take both of us.
Yeah.
Then all right, we're gonna figure out, and we're always down for each other, and I think that brings us closer together.
Yes. And not only, and I think too that when you are going through a challenging time in your marriage, because we've gone through some challenges and we're going off the tip of the day. Now we're just getting into all of it. But like it's easy to love each other, right? And
Kinda
to play
like the parenting.
team when everything is smooth and dandy, when everything is going great, everything is kosher. But then when the challenge and obstacles come,
And you quit.
that, yes.
And it's over.
See, but with us, that's never been the case. Like whether I'm going through a tragic moment, whatever, it's like, what can I do to help you? You know, like we got this. We got this. We can do this. We got this. And from the beginning of our relationship, it's always been that way. And I think that is really what set our foundation, like our love, because we've always been that way, you know, through and it's kind of the vows, right? Through thick and thin and
the better or worse and all
of it. Like that's exactly what we've done and what we've been able to create, you know. And even if it was my fault, or even if it was your fault, it's like, you know, like I know you're already hurting like from the situation, so why make it worse? Instead, it's like, okay, that sucks. What can we do? Like, what can we do? What can I do to help you?
Yeah.
You know?
I think there's also times that I've thought to myself when we're arguing, and I just kind of think, did you mean to hurt me? Did you mean to piss me off? Did you mean to like was this on purpose? And sometimes maybe.
Yeah.
But
sometimes.
usually it's not.
Yeah.
And it's like, then sometimes it's like, well, then why the fuck am I going to get pissed off or get mad or let this be a thing if you didn't intentionally mean to? Maybe you just mention it or say something and then that's it. Yeah. I don't know. And sometimes it takes longer to cool off than others, but little by little, as you become more aware of it.
Yes. It becomes easier,
It becomes
right?
easier,
like,
and you become, well, we talked about it with Mr. Smith too, kind of like when you're doing, you have these habits. And when you become aware of the habits, go back to and listen to that podcast. When you have these habits, you start to recognize it sooner. Right. And then eventually you'll start recognizing it after it happens. Like, oh shit, I did it again. But then little by little, it's like, oh shit, I'm about to do it.
Right. Yes.
And then little by little, it's only a thought.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's so true.
Yeah, but before we get into anything else, a book that's really helped us out, one thing that we've always recommended has been The 5 Love Languages. That book has helped us in so many different ways. It's been, it's a Christian-based book, and, everything that they have in that book is really helpful.
Yes.
And if you guys would like to pick up that book, you guys can go to oppositesattractpodcast.com. When you go there, you can follow the show there. You can listen to the show. You can watch it. You can follow all of our social media. When you go there, you'll see a support the show tab. If you're on your phone and you hit the menu button, you'll see the support the show tab. That'll take you to our Amazon link, and anything that you purchase through that link doesn't cost you anything extra, but we get a couple pennies and it helps out the show. And you'll also be able, when you're on Amazon, you can search for our merch. Just search Opposites Attract Podcast, and you'll find our phone cases, our t-shirts, pop sockets, a bunch of different stuff. So you can check that out. And when you go to the Support the Show tab, you'll find a link to Trust Inc. And Trust Inc. is?
We are a nationwide mobile notary agency and signing agency. So if you are in the process of purchasing, selling, or refinancing, you can request Trust Inc. to be your signing agency.
Nice. And you can go to Trust Inc. directly by going to trustinkusa.com. We're also affiliates with Libsyn, which is who hosts our podcast. They distribute it to iTunes, Amazon Music, Spotify, all the big podcast players that you guys probably listen to podcasts on. They most likely distribute it to them. If you guys have a hobby and you've thought about starting a podcast, podcasts are becoming like the biggest, media thing in the world. Actually, if you guys don't know, we put our podcast not just on Facebook, because we have the Facebook page. I'm sure you guys, if you guys don't know, follow it. But Facebook has like a new option for podcasting now. And I don't know what it is, but it's growing. I'm sure it's going to grow because they see the market of podcasting. Right, yes. They also have a thing like Clubhouse. Have you seen that?
No.
They ripped it off.
What?
Hopefully this comes out on Facebook. If not, you can watch it on YouTube or somewhere else. But we're going to get our stuff out there for everybody. I mean, we're the size of podcast that we are. We're going to take advantage of everything that we can.
Yes.
But I mean, I don't know.
And so should you, if you are a podcaster.
Use it to your advantage. You don't have to get taken advantage of by them all the time. Use what they give you to your advantage.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, there's a way to listen to podcasts now, like actually on Facebook. You can get out of our podcast page and you can scroll through Facebook, and the podcast player will be at the bottom of your Facebook app. And then you can close the app and it still keeps playing.
Wow.
But I think they're still trying it out. It's not perfect or great yet. Your podcast app is probably better. But anyway, if you guys want to start a podcast, you can use promo code OAP for Opposites Attract Podcast with Libsyn, and that will give you the rest of whatever month you sign up in for free, and the next month just for trying out Libsyn, promo code OAP. And we're also affiliates with Pinwheel, which is pretty much the best smartphone for kids that's available. All their apps are monitored by therapists, pretty much by the company. Their mission is to make a cell phone a tool for kids. It's not something that's going to take their attention away. It's not something that they're going to get addicted to. It's not something where they're going to be playing games and hoping to reach the next level and get the new color and get the new points and the coins and the XP and all that bullshit. It just it makes it a tool, and it's good for them. You can monitor their text messages, phone calls, all of that. And if you guys would like to give Pinwheel a try, go to pinwheel.com and use promo code OAP10. OAPTEN, all in caps, and that'll give you 10% off of a Pinwheel phone.
Very cool. So this is hilarious.
What's up?
The other day, the neighbor's daughter came to visit. She's an older girl, and she had her dog with her. And I noticed the dog had a diaper on. And I'm like, oh, and Joey was outside with me. I'm like, oh, look how cute. Her dog has a diaper on. Yeah. And she's like, oh, yeah, she's in heat. And Joey's like, hold on, I got to read my notes because I can't remember exactly what he said. So Joey's friend was with us as well. And
she said,
hold on, I'm reading. So I started to dance, and I told him and Joey that they're going to have to learn how to dance. So this was after the dog, they had left, and I told Joey and Evan, I'm like, hey, you two are going to have to learn how to dance because boys that dance get all the girls. And Joey's going to be, no, I don't think so. He's like, because they're going to not be able to stand the heat.
Yeah.
Because the dog...
Yeah.
But he did not get it. It was much funnier when it happened. Maybe I just didn't,
can't stand the heat.
Right. They can't stand the heat. But I'm like, oh, that's hilarious. Because Joey was like, she's in heat. He didn't understand. And so I'm like, you guys got to learn how to dance so you guys could get all the girls. And Evan's like, yeah, I don't think so. They're not going to be able to stand the heat. Yeah. There you go.
They're freaking fun.
But they're so cute together.
They say
I
some
know.
crazy shit sometimes. It's freaking funny, man.
Yeah, they're like Beavis and Butthead,
Yeah.
or Dumb and Dumber.
We want to get them to dress up as Dumb and Dumber.
We're trying to get them. We're trying to.
You know, at the same time, like, it's Halloween for them. It's not my fucking Halloween.
Yeah.
Making them dress up for some shit that we want to dress up as.
Right.
But
so last week I had mentioned like how, I was talking to the men during this time, and how our tip was for men to, every once in a while, tell your woman she's sexy, right?
Let her catch you checking her out.
Right. And I asked you like after the podcast, like, is that something, like yesterday I did tell you that I was proud of you and I kind of shared some things with you. Is that something, does that, excuse me, does that movie, is that something that you feel is important in a relationship? Because you always hear about, and I guess it all depends on what their love language is as well.
Yeah. I don't know.
Because everyone's different.
What? It's nice to hear. Like, it's not like, it is nice to hear.
Yeah, because your love language is acts of service. So with Miguel, cooking for him, washing his clothes, doing stuff like that really excites him.
Words of affirmation, I mean, it is nice to hear. And if you don't hear it, I mean, I think like they were saying in the book, like you have a backup or a secondary love language.
Right.
And maybe that's what it is. And I think they all have effects. It's just that one has a greater
dominant
effect. That's the one that you really, are drawn to, or whatever you want to call it. But I was just kind of thinking this, but do you think about love languages on the, like, when you're thinking about like doing something or saying, like, do you think about love languages on a regular basis? Because I don't need
to think about it because I already know what your love language is. So I already know I got you covered. Like, I got you covered, Well, I don't really think about it, but I think that with the kids, because they also have their own love language, and that is something that I'm trying to be more in tune with, because at times I forget about their love language.
I think it's when you've been on the path, I guess, or when you've been paying attention, when you've been more aware and you're trying. I think that's just what it is. You just become more aware. Mm-hmm. And it's not really the love language or whatever. It's just everything.
Something
like
you're
do. Just
right.
Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how it turns eventually. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So regardless, women, know your man's love language, because it could be words of affirmation. And from what I've read, not only in that book, but articles like marriage articles, they say that it's important for women to also bring up their man, like to
uplift them.
To uplift them, and let them know, that you appreciate their hard work, or whatever it is, but it's lifting them.
Yeah.
Because normally it's the man. You always hear women like, why don't you tell me this, or why don't you do this? But, men also have similar emotions.
Recognition. That's men die for it, and babies cry for it.
Yeah. So be more in tune with your man, and give him some positive words of affirmation.
All the way around for both. Yeah. And I think the love language is a great place to start. I mean, if you're not at that point in your relationship and you're kind of trying to turn things around and you're getting things started, figuring out the love language is a great place to start. And even if your partner's not down, like, it's a great place for you to start and try to bring them around little by little, But you know what? There's a couple things that before they get too old that, I wanted to kind of talk about. There was a fight not too long ago, and I heard something in one of the interviews for a fight. It was Tyron Woodley. He was a former welterweight UFC champion, and he did this boxing fight with this guy, Jake Paul. He's a YouTuber, right? And he ended up losing the fight. It was pretty boring. There was one moment where he almost knocked the YouTuber out, but the YouTuber's actually pretty good. For a boxer, he'd kick my ass in boxing. But there was something that I heard in one of the interviews, and Tyron Woodley was training with, I think, one of Floyd Mayweather's coaches. Mm-hmm. And he said that you're the director of your own movie. Yep. You're the director of your own movie. And I don't know why, like, I've heard it before, but when you think like he was saying that it just like I pictured it when he said
right.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much you're writing the script and you get to decide how this movie ends.
That's right.
And depending on what you write for yourself in this movie, you will either become the hero
or the villain. No.
or the villain or your movie's just going to end badly or sad.
Yeah.
But it's all up to you. You have the pen in your hand. You're writing the scenes for your movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the writing is the decisions that we're making, the things that we're thinking about, the things that we're acting on.
Yes.
And I don't, man, it was just like, I've heard it before, but
Yes.
in that moment,
It clicked the way
I was
he
just
said
like,
it.
we are. Like,
Yes.
if I decide I'm doing this,
Mm-hmm.
well, that could ruin your life. If I decide I'm doing this, that could change your life forever.
Yes. Yes. I remember when you brought that up, I just filled my heart with joy. Because when I was out speaking, because I was doing a lot of speaking engagements before COVID, absolutely loved it. Who would have thought that I would have loved speaking in public? Oh my God. But right? Like I had a lot of speaking engagements going on at schools and just at different events I was invited to. And that was one of the things I said.
Yeah.
It's like, this is your story. You have the pen.
Yeah.
You get to write out your story. This is your fairy tale.
Yep.
Whatever it is you want,
And you got to be
you
careful.
can create, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Because some things you don't have control over.
And some people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And you can't listen to everybody.
Yeah.
This doesn't really have anything to do with it, but it's, I mean, on a very small scale. Like I had put up a camera in the house. We got like this floodlight camera thing, right? And I went to the store to try to get it, you know, to buy the things to mount it, and because I got to drill into the side of the house and all that shit. And where I was putting it in, the framing on the house, like I'm not a carpenter, I don't build houses, I don't know exactly how framing works and all that shit. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, this might be like solid wood that I have to drill through. I don't know. This might be kind of tough. So I go to the store and I start talking to one of the people at the store. I've always said this. The people that work at the fucking stores usually don't know shit. Because if they did know, they would be making more money actually doing that stuff. Because you make minimum wage at the store. You could make more on a job site actually doing the work.
Yeah. Some people don't want to do that.
Maybe, and a lot of times that is what happens. I'm not saying everybody, but there have been more often than not, they don't know what they're talking about. So he was like, you know what? That is solid wood. And that is going to be hard. And you're going to need like a fucking 3-foot drill bit or something like that. And I'm like, fuck, man. That sounds complicated. That sounds like one of those things that I'm going to get started and then I'm going to get stuck and then I'm going to have to fucking hire somebody anyway. Maybe I should just fucking hire somebody from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And then I went to another store and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to try it. Like, why not? What if I do have to hire somebody? What if it is hard? Fuck it. I'll just try it and somebody else can fix it if I need it. And I tried it, and guess what? It wasn't solid. It was easier than I ever thought it could be. And it turned out fucking great. But if you listen to what other people are telling you, who you might think they know what they're talking about. You know what? He was wearing the apron with he looked like he knew what he was talking about. He had the company logo, and that's what they do.
Yeah.
Guess what? He didn't know what he was talking about. So if I would have went with his advice, I would have never did this shit.
You're right. So you have to be careful with whose advice you're taking. That's what Miguel
They don't know
wanted
what the
to
hell they're
say.
talking about sometimes.
Yeah, but, yeah.
And that's just for installing a fucking camera floodlight. Like that shit goes all the way around for so many different things in your life. When you're asking somebody about whether you should go after this certain degree or whatever, like, dude, if they don't have
what you want, if they're not living the life that you want, you may want to look elsewhere.
You might want to ask somebody that has that degree.
Yeah, like it's okay. We used to hear that all the time. It's okay to be a copycat as long as you're copying the right cat.
Yep. Exactly.
You know? And so you just gotta, check what you're hearing and make sure that, it is what it is and whether it's right for you. Because what may be right for one person may not be right for the other.
Yeah.
Yep.
There was another thing that I wanted to talk about. So I don't think we haven't talked about it too much, but there's been a lot of shit happening with with the Afghanistan stuff, like that kind of just went away already. Like that just happened not that long ago. And then the stuff with the vaccines and all this stuff. And one of my friends had brought up, and I mentioned it to you, and I hadn't even thought about it. I don't know if you guys have thought about it, but the whole thing with Afghanistan and the withdrawal happened, right? And I don't think anybody can say that was done well, right? I mean, no matter what, that was a fucking disaster. Regardless of whether you were for, I mean, I don't know how you could be for the war. You could be for the troops. You could be for, but like for the business of war and all of that, I don't know. But regardless of all of that, the plan was not, it wasn't planned out correctly. It wasn't executed right. And the government was catching a lot of heat for it. Like there was a lot of people wanting answers, wanting accountability, wanting all these things. And then, I mean, was it like a week later? Was it like a week later or like 2 weeks later that they decided, like, they come out with the news that all these companies now have to do these, you know, vaccines for everybody that has less than 100 people. And you know what? Like one of my friends told me, he's like, you know what
more
that did?
More than 100.
Yeah, anybody that has more than 100 people, you have to be vaccinated. If not, you got to be tested every 2 weeks. But that, I'm sure, like everybody knows that if you were to say something like that before it actually was official, it's going to start a big fucking thing, right? Around the country, because everybody knows how people are for it, people are against it. Some people feel that everybody should have it and they want to force everybody to get it. There's people that feel like nobody should be forced to do anything. And it took all of the attention off of what had happened in Afghanistan. And that was a big, big fucking deal.
Right.
You know what I mean? That was a huge disaster, a huge mistake. And that's the way the news cycle happens. Something really bad happens, and then the next week, something else happens, or they'll release something else to get you
out of the hot seat.
Yeah, so you're not even focused on that anymore. We haven't heard about Afghanistan since the fucking vaccine mandates.
Right. Yeah.
And it's sad.
Yeah.
And now, I don't know if you've heard, I think I showed you the video. There's this Marine Lieutenant Colonel that he went on Facebook and
speaking out.
And he was speaking out. And he has since been put in the brig, which is pretty much the military jail. It's not like prison, but it's the military jail.
Did they say how long?
He is put in there while he is going through trial. You know, so like, and that's something that I don't understand. Like some people get bail. Like this isn't, and this is different for you guys that don't understand how the military works. This is different because he is not a civilian and he is not going to civilian court. He is getting tried in a military court.
Wow.
And they have different rules. They have different laws that they follow. But you know how, like, if you commit a crime, some people, like, you go to jail for that day, but then you get out and you're released. Right. And then you have a court date and you come back. But then there's some people that they get arrested, they go to court, and then they stay in jail while they're going through trial, maybe because they're considered more dangerous or whatever, and I get it. But this guy was speaking out, and then they throw him in jail. Now, that might be the protocol for the military. I wasn't in jail when I was in the military, that I remember. And but it's just completely different. And he got arrested for speaking out. And what he was arrested, what was he? He was arrested for some bullshit. I can't remember the exact charges, but they do these things. And I know because it happened to me. So he got arrested for some technicality, I think is what it was. It's like one of those things that according to the law, you can't do this. And even though you did all these other things, like this is what we can actually get you for. So we're going to get you on this technicality. I'll give you an example of it because it happened to me. When I was in the military, I used to like to party. I got in a shit ton of trouble and I got a bunch of like, not where I had to go to court, but it was like, they call it non-judicial punishment. They take away your stripes, you get confined to base and a bunch of other stuff. And eventually, so there was when I got in trouble for the last time, they were cutting people out and I fell within that. I had gotten in trouble at the wrong time and I got a DUI. What I actually got discharged for was for not filling out a piece of paper that said that I was leaving the local area. Now, in other branches of the military, you're only allowed to travel on your days off so far from the base. Like you can only be 200, 300 miles from the base. I don't know what it is. In the Air Force, we didn't really have that. Mm-hmm. But there was a piece of paper that said that if you're under 25, you have to tell us where you're going on vacation, right? Or where you're going, period. So if it's the weekend, you don't have to take vacation, right? You just fill out this paper and say, I'm going to Tucson or I'm going to Vegas or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And you can do it. I went on vacation. When you go on vacation, you have to put where you're going. I was under 25. I had official orders for vacation. So I thought, I don't have to fill out a paper. They know where I'm going. They have my vacation, my leave paperwork. And I got in trouble. So when I got the DUI, I was going to court, regular civilian court for the DUI. And I don't know why. I think they could still hammer you for the DUI, but they don't, or they don't want to. So what they actually got me on was the technicality of not filling out that stupid fucking paper and not telling them where I was going, even though they had my leave paperwork with the address of exactly where I was going.
Wow.
That was what they're like, oh, we found this. And that is enough. And that's what they're doing to this guy. And all he did was ask for accountability for what was happening. He's like, I want somebody to give us some answer. And what is wrong with that?
Right. Yeah, that's just a sad situation. You know, it's crazy. It's just crazy. And when you look at social media today, I mean, if you say something that Facebook is not okay with, they're blocking you. Like they're just blocking your shit and you're going to go to Facebook jail. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And it's like, I thought we were free.
And when you join,
I don't understand. I mean, I do, but I don't.
Yeah. There is I want to read this real quick. This is what every person that signs up in the military, what they swear to the day one. This is when you cross from being a civilian to being in the military. You raise your right hand and you this is the Oath of Enlistment. And it says, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. What that's internal government.
Wow.
Internal government, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That is the Constitution. I bear allegiance to the Constitution. And that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and orders of the officers appointed over me according to the regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. So
that's kind of scary.
According,
come on, that's kind of scary.
And listen, I've talked about this. I was part of it, but eventually you figure it out. Somebody wrote this down. Some dude wrote this down. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm swearing. So help me God.
Right.
People made this shit up too. Now I understand it's necessary for certain things, but the person that also wrote this understood. And they put even in here, the Constitution came first before everything else. And that's what this Marine officer was doing. He's defending the Constitution. And he's asking for accountability, and he's being punished for it. And some people are like, if you don't like it, you know, that you knew how it works. Mm-hmm. That doesn't make it right. You know?
So on a happy note,
and with that,
I love you, babe.
Thanks.
We love you guys. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for listening, and thank you
for listening to Opposites Attract podcast
and watching Opposites Attract podcast,
where we get better
together.
Bye.